But if you're currently someone that's a little bit out of shape, or you know that you could be in a bit better shape, you're not overly happy with the dynamic of your physical body, there are things that you can do. I'm gonna start with a little story. When I was about 12, 13 years old, I was going swimming, there was girls there, so instantly insecurities have started popping up. I went into the changing rooms, we're about to get changed, and I've made like a last second decision because I've seen and felt how I was looking at the time, and I've made a last second decision to say, I'm gonna keep my t-shirt on and say I've got some sort of rash on my back. The reason why I use this story is because one of the fundamental reasons of why I started to get in shape, that story is like one of many. And there's been so many examples, there's so many situations, especially from growing up, whether that was primary school or secondary school, kind of went through phases of in shape, out of shape, in shape, out of shape. And I remember every phase out of shape and kind of how I felt. A lot of the time we look at getting into shape, or we look at becoming healthy, we look at it from like a first layer point of view, as in seeing someone just in shape. But what you don't see is the mental insecurities, the mental problems, you know what I mean, the psychological traumas that come with being out of shape, but not just being out of shape, but being super conscious of it. A lot of people that you see, they might not be conscious of it, so it doesn't cause them problems. Don't want anyone else experiencing, or if you have experienced it, you probably know how it feels. But like a real moment like that of going to a swimming pool with a t-shirt on, just because of how bogged down you are in, oh, what do I look like? What do I look like? What do I look like? Especially at that age, because that's all that matters at that age. When I was in primary school, every day, especially from the younger years, I used to come into school, get almost bullied. I guess you could label it as getting bullied for the shape of my body. I was out of shape. They used to call me tubby. They used to call me all sorts of names. I guess when you're at such a young age, you don't think too much of it. As you get older, obviously, you become a little bit more conscious. And when them things are happening and people are like looking at you constantly, it's then creating that insecurities. And I think it points to that story of when I went to the swimming pool in my t-shirt, that major incident, it's just a build-up of like minor things. I remember every day how it felt, and also thinking that there was nothing I could do about it, being out of shape. Like, it's just a genetic problem, it's a metabolism problem, there's nothing you can do about it. And what's so beautiful is that there is something you can do about it, regardless of what your body setup is, your genetics and all that stuff. Yeah, there's people that are like top percentile genetics and they're always gonna look great. You've probably got your mate that's got a 6-pack, 8-pack, regardless of what they eat. We all have them mates. But we can also join them and we can also get close. And what's even better about this journey of when you actually work for it is that you get the psychological benefits. There's the psychological benefits of the deeper stuff that are not spoken about when it comes to getting in shape and just being a little bit healthier. Someone that has them great genetics doesn't experience the level of benefit psychologically. This is what I wanted to speak about. I wanted to speak about the psychological benefits of transitioning from someone that isn't in the best shape possible to someone that is just, I say this a lot, but you don't have to have 6-pack, 8-pack and be ripped and all this stuff. It's just about getting yourself to a position where you're like, right, cool, I'm happy, I'm content. So then when you do go to the swimming pool with your mates, you ain't worrying about, oh, I've got to keep my top on. You haven't got to be doing any of that stuff, because that's like an extreme level of insecurity. That's an extreme level of self-concern. As I went into secondary school, I made one of my fundamental goals of I need to get in shape. I had to make it happen. Luckily for me, football started to become a thing, which I've spoken about in depth before, but football started to become a thing, going training all the time and whatnot, and naturally the weight just started dropping off. Because I started getting all right at football, you start to get validated like heavily. Plus being in better shape, now the insecurities just start to vanish completely. You almost have the opposite problem of being insecure to being arrogant. That's definitely how my life changed, especially when I think about year 10 to year 11. I'll explain. In the UK, so it's not grades. What do they do in America? 6th grade, 8th grade? Yeah, none of that stuff. So you go to secondary school from like year 7, which is like 10, 11 years old, to like year 11, which is like 16 years old. So between like 15 and 16 years old, when I really started to get in a bit better shape, how my life completely changed was how I'm being perceived. So my friends, by possible partners at the time. So obviously when you've gone from spending so many years almost in the dark, so you can't just go up to people and build connections. You can't just build relationships with people. I'm struggling socially. Mate. Nice helps. I'm gonna add this. One of the main things that changed in year 11, or as you start to get in a bit better shape, suddenly that insecurity that you have deep within starts to disappear. and you start to consider yourself a little bit more valuable. You start to see the value of yourself, and it is very surface level because it's just in the physical. It's just in the physical, which is not a good way to look at life. But at that age, it's such a prominent thing in our life, like the things that we see on surface level. So going from a space where it's difficult to build social connections, it's difficult to speak to people. I mean, women, that wasn't even a question. I didn't speak to any of them. Going through that transition to someone that's a little bit more proud of themselves, what comes with that is a level of self-assurance, a level of self-belief, but it's not belief with no evidence. It's belief with evidence. It's not confidence anymore. It's competence, and competence leads to confidence. So there's this thing about you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror every morning. How you become confident is having a stack of undeniable achievements to say that you are the person you say you are. So that when no one is validating you, if no one is in the room, you're self-assured in yourself to say, I say I'm like this, here's the things that also say I'm like this. And getting in shape is just one of those things. I went through a phase of difficulty to put myself in a position where I look at myself in the mirror and I can smile, like genuinely smile. So no one needs to be in a room for that. That's a feeling that you feel deep within.
We're not finished yet. So you made it this far. I know you must have ginormous biceps already. So my promise to you is that within the next 6 months, I'll get you in the best shape of your life. I've just made a newsletter. It's completely free, and it's in the link down below in this video. Sign up, completely free. Be debunking myths and making taking control of your health a lot simpler, a lot easier, and a lot more sustainable for a long period of time. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and we're in this for the long run. But yeah, until the next one, love.